Coming up next on the Backroads of Montana, we'll examine the refined sport of polo, Montana style. We'll climb up Big Hole Pass near Dillon for a fragrant hike through a field of wildflowers. Then on to Montana's perennial cold spot, Cut Bank, for a colorful convention of storytellers. And after all that work, we'll end up in Dell for a hearty breakfast that's guaranteed to satisfy. All that and a brand new look here on the Backroads of Montana.
Well, it's beautiful with spacious skies, has amber waves of green, and has purple mountains majestic that rise up out of the plains. And all across America, from sea to shining sea, where the mountains and the prairies meet, is a place I need to be. Home is where Montana is my home. From mountain peaks to prairie lands, the places I have known. And I'm bound to ramble, yes, I'm bound to roam. And when I'm in off the road now, boys, Montana is my home.
Backroads of Montana is made possible with support from the Greater Montana Foundation, Travel Montana, and the University of Montana.
Hello, I'm William Marcus. Welcome to the Backroads of Montana, a program about the people and places that make Montana special. Today we're in Helena at the original governor's mansion. For nearly 50 years, this Victorian house served as home to Montana's governors and their families. We'll take a look inside in a moment. But our first story has all the elements of a successful Montana sport. It combines teamwork, the great outdoors, and a love for horses. Around here we call it Cowboy Polo, and it creates some special relationships for its players. Cowboy Polo, it's a Western tradition and a family tradition. Doug Kopp and his father Stan, Josh Patterson and his father Jeff. At practice, you can see a son pass to a father for a goal. It's Cowboy Polo passed from one generation to the next.
You look at your dad play out there and the other guys and stuff play, and it's just something that looks fun, right from the very start, and you just automatically pick up a mallet and start doing it.
I guess there's some teams that have grandpa and son and grandkid playing, and it's just something everybody in the family can do without costing an arm and a leg.
During the summer, just east of Missoula, you'll find the Missoula County Sheriff's posse practicing. Practice, too, is a family affair. Doug's father, Stan, has been lining the field, saddling the horses, and scoring goals for nearly 25 years. He was considered one of the best players in the state, a title his son now holds. It makes a father proud.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's something he, I guess kind of inherited, or, I taught him a lot of it, and this old boy that got me started worked with him a lot. And he started out, 12 years old, and he's become quite a competitive player now.
That's an understatement. Doug's competed in national tournaments and earned Most Valuable Player honors. But Doug is quick to point out he just plays for fun, and he owes all his success to the horse. Every person who plays Cowboy Polo will tell you the most valuable player has 4 legs. Jeff Patterson's been playing for more than a dozen years. He and his son discovered you need the right personality on the right horse.
And for a good example of that is both my dad and I have ridden, all of our lives and are good riders, but he started out on this guy here riding. His name's PJ, and they just didn't click personality-wise, and we switched horses and turned it out to do a lot better doing that.
A lot of what goes on out here is kind of a subliminal message between you and your horse. Your horse has to kind of know what you want, and you kind of have to know how your horse is feeling.
And it's a pretty good bond. Like I say, you get to playing polo on them, and you can do anything with them after that. They back.
You're outside, keep backing.
They run, they turn, and nothing scares them. And just really makes them gentle.
Cowboy Polo attracts a wide variety of players. For example, there's Buster, Nutmeg, and Twister, not to mention the folks riding them.
The people are really good people. You have just all sorts of walks of life. It started out ranchers and stuff, and now we have lawyers and private investigators, and I work for UPS. A lot of fun as far as them getting out and giving them something to do besides sitting behind a desk all day.
No matter what job they have or what horse they ride, Cowboy Polo keeps them coming back. Maybe it's the simplicity of the sport. In Cowboy Polo, there are 5 players on each team. The field is divided into 5 zones, and 1 player from each team plays in a zone. Unlike traditional polo, horses don't run up and down the field, they remain in their zone. The players use hard rubber mallets to pass the ball to each other. The ball is just like the one from the playground, but it needs to be as tough as the players, or this could happen. The object is to put the ball between the cones. It's not uncommon to see horses leaning and pushing, trying to gain position to score a goal. If you score from the closest zone, that's 1 point. The next zone is 2 points, and so on. A match lasts for 4 15-minute segments called chukkers.
Chucker, that's the end of your game.
At first glance, the game looks pretty easy, but the view from our Backroads horse cam shows this is a tough sport.
Hitting that ball is probably the most amazing thing. You see that big ball out there and you think, God, anybody could hit that, but gets a bouncing around and you're going at a dead run. It's pretty easy to miss it.
Physically, it's exhausting, and you get beat from one end to the other, and you can see, we wear pads and chaps, and you come home with bruises, and it's tough. It's tougher on the people than it is on the horses. You get 2 1,500-pound animals slamming together, and when your leg's in between there, you can tell.
On this weekend, the team travels to Butte for a tournament. It begins with a big pre-game breakfast. Everyone pitches in, so everyone can eat. Well, almost everyone. The big players have to wait until later. While the coffee's ready, Becky Booker checks on the bacon. It's not her most important job in the tournament.
We have a score for Missoula.
Becky announces the Cowboy Polo action. Her husband Bill is playing, and Becky's equally part of the match. In fact, it seems more people notice Becky.
Everyone's kind of like, who is that up there? Is that Becky? Becky's always so quiet until you put a microphone in her hand and then watch out.
In between matches, players from different teams come together and visit. Some players grab a quick bite to eat, while others spend time alone, thinking about the next match. It's the perfect atmosphere for this sport.
Well, you can go to the tournaments and you know everybody. You can leave your equipment laying around. You don't have to worry about it walking off. It's just a good, honest, family-type organization, statewide.
We're like a big family. We've gone through some hard times together. We've gone through some good times together. We've got a really, really good group here.
After the tournament ends, everyone heads home. But soon they'll be practicing again. And for players like Josh Patterson and his son Austin, there'll be another chance to pass Cowboy Polo to the next generation. Families played a big role in the history of this house. The original governor's mansion was home to 3 families before the state bought it for use by Montana's first family. Entrepreneur William Chessman built the house in 1888 for his wife Penelope and their 2 children. Sam V. Stewart was the first Montana governor to live here. He moved in 1913. You can almost imagine the stories, political and personal, that played out in this house. Stories, half-truths, and downright lies are the basis for a Backroads trip to Cutbank. There, each year at the Montana Storytellers Conference, you can't believe half of what you hear. Cutbank, Montana is best known for its oil, its weather, and once each spring for its bull.
There was bear scat everywhere.
We started telling lies to each other. We call them stories here at the festival.
Whatever you call them, tall tales are held in high regard at the annual Montana Storytellers Conference, 3 days celebrating the nearly lost art of storytelling. At one time, every story, fact or fiction, was passed down orally from one generation to the next. Today, television and the internet provide quicker gratification on a larger scale. But in the process, smaller, more personal histories are lost.
Talk to your family, talk to your grandparents. If your great-grandparents will live and record their histories, because once they're gone, what they know is gone also.
Jewel Walk, chief push behind the conference, believes that Montana, despite its small population, is long on stories and good storytellers.
We shouldn't waste that talent. It's around us. We're surrounded with it. And it's so beautiful. You must create a platform where this talent can show.
Talent like Rib Gustafson, whose stories are based upon a lifetime as a veterinarian along the High Line, such as the time he prescribed a special dietary supplement, hoping to quickly fatten a farmer's pig.
I told that feller, well, you can shorten the time you feed those pigs from 12 months down to around 5 months. He says, Rib, he says, yes. He says, but what is time to a pig?
Richard Stickroth's tall tale of a pioneer being chased by an angry bear comes complete with visual aids.
Well, the tree slung this bear about 25,000 feet over the top of a mountain. And the tree came by with so much force it created like a vacuum. And the wind ripped all the man's clothes off, and the poor fellow was standing there plumb naked. And that's not all. When it came by, it ripped all his hair out of his head. And poor old fellow was bald the rest of his life. And that's why I know this story's true.
More than a dozen storytellers headlined the conference, which was rounded out with musicians, yodelers, and a couple of hard-working cowboy poets, as handy with a sonnet as they are with a saddle, willing to break into verse at the drop of a 10-gallon hat.
How long have you been riding, pard? Slim asked as we were working hard. 50 years or more, I'd say. I can't exactly name the day when I first sat astride a horse, but it sure altered my life's course.
This year, the Storytellers Conference was aimed at a younger, more impressionable audience. Organizers hope to reach over 1,000 children from area schools, the Blackfeet Indian Reservation, and a rare visit from the Hidden Lake Hutterite Colony.
It's like talking to a sponge and you're this biggest pitcher of water in the world and they're just soaking it up.
It's hard not to soak in Channing Hartelius. In period costume, he tells stories about George Washington, cherry trees, and that dollar across the Potomac.
I don't know of anybody that has ever gone home and had nightmares after my stories.
And what young person's evening would be complete without a scary story from ghost expert Lee Jacobson?
Teach the children that they have this inside of themselves. They don't have to be entertained. They can do the entertaining for themselves and other people, and to give them the courage to go ahead and try.
The only story you might not hear about is Jewel's successful fundraising techniques.
My husband really isn't too aware of how much he's going to give yet, but he'll find out when he goes through the checkbook.
Or how she persuaded the county, the city, and various civic groups to help finance the conference.
And they cowboy up and help you when you need it.
Jewel's personal contribution is her talking quilts. They tell a story, too, of pioneering women, prairie life, loss, and aging. Tales like those from the conference, which when woven together form a tapestry, helping preserve a bit of Montana's heritage.
Before I die, I want to see a new industry in the state. That new industry will be storytelling, and it will come from the people in Montana here. And I love it. I just love it.
Jewel says that if there's one thing better than a good story, it's another good story. You can check out the Storytellers Conference any April, always in Cutbank. And that's no lie. Over the years, little has changed here at the original Governor's Mansion in Helena. Additions to the structure have been minimal, and it's filled with period furnishings. Our next Backroads location has also withstood the test of time. The summit of Big Hole Pass in southwest Montana is pretty much the same as it was on July 7, 1806, when Captain William Clark, on his return from the Pacific, slowly climbed to the top. We were there 2 days and 192 years later, and were greeted with a colorful variety of wildflowers. We took along Ranger Katie Bump to identify them for us.
The area we're in is on the Big Hole Divide. The Big Hole Divide was crossed by Clark in early July of 1806 on his return trip, where he was going down to pick up the canoes. And the plants that you see growing in this area probably were the same type of plants that grew here at that time, almost 200 years ago. These are all native plants of the area. When you're driving by or sitting at home, you don't get to see the real experience, the smell and the feel of the plants like you do if you're just driving by. And if you stop and get out, it gives a chance, for me anyway, a little bit of a chance to relax and realize that no matter what happens in your life, all these plants are out here doing their thing. And they'll continue to grow and flower and set seed no matter what happens in the world. So it's kind of neat that way. It's just after the 4th of July. We've been in search of red, white, and blue, and we found it today. What we see are white, which is alpine fern leaf. The blue is lupin, and the red is Indian paintbrush. Most of the plants that you see out that are blooming here right now, they have the lupin in particular has a really strong scent this time of year when it's blooming. All of them are perennial plants, and they're all native to Montana. They need a sunny exposure to grow on, like we have here with just an open forest. Sagebrush is an important wildlife habitat on rangeland because it provides important cover where there aren't any trees. And little birds and deer fawns and elk calves, that sort of thing, they get a lot of benefits from the cover provided by sagebrush. Okay, some of the plants we've seen in this area, we've seen sticky geranium. Sticky geranium has a very kind of a bright purple flower or violet color flower. We've seen the pussy toes, the little pink pussy toes. We've seen some yellow potentilla or cinquefoil, which is a fairly common plant on many of our mountain meadows.
The meadow we visited is in the Beaverhead National Forest. If you're interested in the wildflowers or the trails in that area, contact the Beaverhead National Forest Ranger Station in Dillon. The last governor to live in the original governor's mansion was J. Hugo Aronson. He moved in 1959 to the new residence on Carson Street, ending this mansion's half-century of service to Montana's first families. Service, great food, and low prices are the hallmark of our next backroad stop. Less than 24 people live in the town of Dell in southwest Montana, but the cafe there serves over 30,000 customers a year. We had to get up early to find out why, but it was worth it. They say that if you want to find good food out on the road, just look for the trucks. Roy and Bill drove all night to get here, to yesterday's cafe in Dell, Montana.
When the cook sees me come across the railroad tracks, he puts my food on.
Inside, owner Vila Holland and cook Jackie Duzek have been busy since before sunup. The potatoes are boiling, the biscuits are piping hot, and the ham is ready for slicing. Truck driver Roy Robertson's usual breakfast of bacon and eggs can get him all the way to Salt Lake City, and of course comes with Roy's highest praise.
It's as good as my wife's, yes.
All the old cliches about the neighborhood cafe ring true at this converted one-room schoolhouse. Chatty waitresses serve up eye-opening food to sleepy locals, some waking up for the first time. It's the focal point of this community, where everyone knows you, one way or another.
Yes, I usually know them by what they eat instead of their names. Ham and eggs, sunny side up. Right?
Even if you're new to town, the cafe's community seating guarantees that you won't be a stranger for long.
We've had people come in here that didn't want to sit with a big bunch of people. They wanted their own table. And we say, well, that's all we have is these big tables. And they'll sit down, and before they leave, they're talking and they're visiting, and they know somebody they know. And it's really neat to watch.
Everyone knows Virgil Triplett. He lives in Lima, which has its own cafe, but Virgil prefers to eat his meals in Dell. He covers the 16-mile distance 3 times each day in his 1953 Chevy sedan.
It's good. The best from Port Angeles to Tallahassee. And there's a lot of people that detour. They'll detour and come through here just to eat. They do.
Motorists began detouring in 1972 when Vila's grandparents, Ken and Ruth Bertelson, bought the 1903 vintage schoolhouse to use as an antique store. But when Vila's mother died, leaving the grandparents with 4 children to support, they changed plans and in 1978 opened a restaurant, hoping to attract business from Interstate 15. Things started slow, but word of mouth, magazine articles, and national television exposure soon brought in more than 30,000 customers a year.
Grandma basically had to take the harness, and she started out thinking that maybe she'd serve maybe 25 people a day, just enough to buy bread and butter and milk with, and it's turned into a major business.
Still, Ruth and Ken never gave up the notion of an antique store and continued to collect objects from all over southwestern Montana. Today, a dusty warehouse adjacent to the cafe displays relics from yesterdays, long since past.
People like to see it, and they wander through it all the time. It's a good advertisement for the cafe, too.
Is that 2 short stacks and 2 hams?
Right.
Okay.
2 orders.
Right.
Back in the cafe, dust never settles. Jackie clears the grill for a side order of flapjacks, while Janice makes sure it all gets delivered hot.
Eggs hard.
Over hard with ham.
Great, thanks.
Janice Remley, a rancher's wife, claims she never knew hard work until she started waitressing at the cafe.
When I first started working, I couldn't even lift this coffee pot. And now I've got muscles. I worked all through college, and I worked on a ranch, and this is the hardest. Soup's hot.
Vila retreats from the frenzy at the grill to a secluded corner of the kitchen and starts working on a pie. An accomplished pastry artist, Vila works in dough as deftly as a sculptor works in clay. She learned her craft from Grandma Ruth, who passed along her secrets to successful baking.
Because I don't measure anything. I just know how much. She showed me how to do it that way, and that's just how we do it. I can't tell you how much of anything goes in anything.
Ben Yarbrough liked Vila's pies so much he relocated in the area after retirement. His enthusiasm for Vila's pastry is matched only by his bird dog, Sandy.
Eat pie here every day, and they always give me extra for my dog. The only problem is last year I went out duck hunting, and the only thing he could point was a piece of coconut pie.
By 1990, Ruth had successfully raised her second family. She and the cafe had done their work, and it was time to sell. Not wanting to see the business turned over to strangers, Vila bought the cafe, keeping it in the family and in Dell.
This is everything that's here is what 86 years of my grandfather's life represents, and my grandmother's too, and I just didn't want it sold off to somebody that wasn't going to appreciate that and respect that and keep it together.
Vila's decision was good news for the community, now addicted to her pies and her low prices.
If I just wanted to rely on feeding nothing but the tourists, I could double my prices and they'd still come in. But I have to feed the local people too, and they're not going to go for that. And I wouldn't either if I was them, and give an honest meal at an honest price is the way I look at it. So Grandma did it for years, and the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it, works pretty good here.
Remaining too is the spirit of this cafe, from its inviting ramshackle exterior to the remnants of its schoolhouse days. where locals dine under the countenance of our founding fathers. Home to 3 generations, Vila's 12-year-old daughter is the newest dishwasher. A detour for Virgil and dozens of interstate truckers who help themselves to coffee or let cook Jackie decide what's best to eat. Where each customer, familiar or not, gets a thanks and is reminded,
We'll drive carefully.
most will be driving out of Dell, population 20 and getting smaller. Home and work are in other places, a fact that saddens Vila. She says that she's seen enough folks leaving for bigger towns, replaced by larger mechanized farms. But in Dell, great food, hard work, and sacrifice guarantee that yesterday's cafe will open again tomorrow morning.
I'm proud of what my grandparents built here, and I want to keep it that way if I can.
I'll bet that story made you hungry, didn't it? Pie is listed here at $1.25, $1.50 for pie a la mode. Unfortunately, this is not one of Vila's pies. It's a long way from Dell to Helena. Well, that's our show. We'd like to thank Kirby Lambert and Tom Cook of the Montana Historical Society for all of their help. Tours of the original Governor's Mansion are available through the Historical Society. Just give them a call. And tours of original Backroad shows are available through your local city-county library. If you know of someone we should feature on Backroads or a place we should visit, please drop us a line at the Backroads of Montana, the University of Montana, Missoula, Montana, 59812, or visit our website at www.umt.edu/backroads. As long as you keep watching, we'll keep covering the Backroads of Montana. I'm William Marcus. See you next time.
Above us here, you can hear them coyotes crying. And there's plenty of room for moving and plenty of fresh air. And the folks out here have the time of day and a helping hand to share. Home is where Montana is my home. From mountain peaks to prairie lands, the places I have known. And I'm bound to ramble, yes, I'm bound to roam. And when I'm in off the road now, boy,
Backroads of Montana is made possible with support from the Greater Montana Foundation, Travel Montana, and the University of Montana.